The dust kicked up in golden clouds as the black stallion reared, hooves slashing at empty air, and Jack Brennan gripped the fence rail so hard splinters bit into his palms while watching the woman in the center of the corral face down 1,500 pounds of pure rage. September sun beat down on Copper Ridge, Arizona Territory, in 1883, turning the packed dirt arena into a furnace. Jack had ridden into town 3 days ago, looking for ranch work and a chance to forget the ghosts that followed him from Texas. What he had not expected to find was Katherine Hayes, standing alone in a breaking pen with Devil's Thunder, the black stallion that had put 4 men in the doctor's care and killed a horse trader in Tucson. Katherine moved like water, fluid and unhurried, her dark hair twisted in a practical braid down her back. She wore men's trousers, which caused the church ladies to whisper, but nobody could argue with results. The stallion pawed the ground, snorting, muscles bunching under his midnight coat. She did not look away from him, did not flinch. Just stood there, one hand extended, voice too low for Jack to hear but the tone of it reaching him anyway, calm and steady as a river. "She's going to get herself killed," muttered Tom Ferguson, the livery owner, standing next to Jack. "Been telling her daddy for weeks that horse cannot be broke." Jack said nothing. He could not tear his eyes away from her. The stallion charged and his heart jumped into his throat, but Katherine simply stepped aside at the last possible second, letting the animal's momentum carry him past. Her hand brushed along his shoulder as he went, just a touch, then she was still again, waiting. "How long has she been in there?" Jack asked. "Near about an hour this morning. Yesterday she spent 2 hours, day before that 3. Tom shook his head. "Girl has got more patience than job and twice the stubbornness." The stallion wheeled around, tossing his head. Jack saw the moment something shifted in the animal's eyes, not surrender exactly but curiosity. The horse took a step toward Katherine, then another. She remained motionless, hand still outstretched. Devil's Thunder lowered his head, nostrils flaring as he tested her scent. "I will be damned," Tom breathed. The stallion's nose touched Katherine's palm. She moved slowly, running her hand up the broad plane of his face. The horse shuddered but did not pull away. Katherine's lips moved, speaking words meant only for the animal. Jack felt something twist in his chest, sharp and unexpected. He had spent the last 5 years building walls around himself, learning to stay distant, to avoid connections that could be ripped away. But watching this woman gentle, the untamable made those walls feel flimsy as paper. She spent another 30 minutes with the stallion before leaving the corral. Devil's Thunder watched her go, and Jack could have sworn the animal looked disappointed. Katherine latched the gate, pulling off leather gloves and wiping sweat from her forehead. That was when she noticed Jack staring. "Can I help you?" Her voice matched the rest of her, direct and unadorned. Her eyes were hazel, he noticed, flecked with gold that caught the sunlight. "Jack Brennan." He touched the brim of his hat. "I was just admiring your work with the horse. Katherine Hayes. Most people call me Kate." She studied him with the same calm assessment she had given the stallion. "You are new in town. Got in Monday, looking for ranch work. Can you ride?" "Yes, ma'am. Been working cattle since I was 12. She glanced at Tom, who nodded. "Jack here says he worked the Circle T down in Texas. References checked out." "My father runs the Double H, 5 miles west of town. We are short a hand since Billy Preston broke his leg." Kate looked back at Jack. "Pay is $30 a month plus room and board. Work is hard and starts before sunrise. If you drink, you do it on your own time and never show up impaired. If you mistreat any animal on the property, you will be gone before you can blink. We run 200 head of cattle, 20 horses, and my mother keeps chickens that you are not to disturb. Interested?" Jack felt a smile tug at his mouth, the first genuine one in months. "Yes, ma'am." "Very interested. Then be at the ranch at dawn tomorrow. Follow the north road out of town, you will see the sign." She pulled her gloves back on. "And stop calling me ma'am, Kate is fine." She walked away before he could respond, heading toward a paint mare tied at the hitching post. Jack watched her swing into the saddle with easy grace, then ride out of town at a canter. "You got that look," Tom said, amusement in his voice. What look? The one every man gets around Kate Hayes. Fair warning, friend, she does not have time for courting. That girl lives and breathes horses. Had a few fellows try their luck, and she sent them packing without a second thought. Jack turned away from the road where Kate had disappeared. Just looking for work, Tom, nothing more. But lying had never been his strong suit, and Tom's knowing chuckle followed him all the way back to the boarding house. Dawn came cold and clear, painting the desert in shades of rose and amber. Jack rode out to the Double H on the bay gelding he had purchased in Tucson, his bedroll and saddlebags carrying everything he owned. The ranch spread across a valley between red rock hills. The house, a sturdy adobe structure with a covered porch and glass windows that spoke of prosperity. Corrals and outbuildings dotted the property, all well maintained. Cattle grazed in distant pastures, dark shapes against the pale grass. A man waited on the porch, tall and weathered, with Kate's same direct gaze. "You must be Brennan. I am Robert Hayes. My daughter tells me you are looking for work." "Yes, sir, I appreciate the opportunity." Robert studied him for a long moment. "I will be straight with you. This ranch is my daughter's future. When I am gone, it will be hers. She has worked every bit as hard as any man to learn this business, and she is better with horses than anyone I have ever seen. Some folks in town think that is unnatural. They think a woman should be concerned with sewing and social calls. If you are one of those folks, you can turn around right now." "I watched her with that black stallion yesterday," Jack said. "What she did took skill and courage. I do not care if she is a woman or a three-legged dog. That was impressive." A smile cracked Robert's weathered face. "Good answer. Come on, I will show you the bunkhouse and introduce you to the others." The Double H employed 5 hands plus Jack. There was old Charlie, who had been with Robert for 20 years and served as foreman. Miguel, a vaquero from Sonora who could rope anything that moved. Young Danny, barely 19 and eager to prove himself. Luther, a former Buffalo soldier who had drifted west after his discharge. And Sam, a quiet man who had been a Pinkerton agent before deciding he preferred cattle to criminals. They were a good crew, Jack could tell immediately. They worked together with the ease of men who trusted each other. Kate was in the barn when Robert showed Jack around, working with a sorrel mare. She acknowledged him with a nod but kept her attention on the horse. Jack found himself watching the way she moved, the quiet confidence in every gesture. "My daughter is particular about her horses," Robert said, leading Jack back outside. "We breed and train them, sell to ranchers and cavalry posts. That black stallion, Devil's Thunder, he was wild, caught up near Flagstaff. Kate saw potential in him that nobody else could. If she can gentle him, prove he can be ridden, his stud fees alone will bring in more money than a year of cattle sales." "Has she ever failed? With a horse, I mean." Robert considered. "Once. 3 years ago, a mare that had been abused something terrible. Kate worked with her for 6 months, but the damage went too deep. We had to put her down." His expression darkened. Kate cried for a week, blamed herself, though there was nothing more she could have done. "That is when I knew for certain this ranch should be hers. Anyone who cares that deeply will do right by the land and animals." The work was exactly what Jack needed, physical labor that left him too tired to think when he fell into his bunk at night. He mended fences, moved cattle, helped Miguel break a couple of young geldings. The other hands were easy to work with, and Charlie proved to be a fair foreman who expected honest effort but did not ride anyone unnecessarily. Kate remained elusive. She was always working, always busy with her horses or helping her father with the books or checking on the cattle. Jack saw her at meals, which the hands took in the main house kitchen thanks to her mother's insistence. Margaret Hayes was a warm woman who reminded Jack painfully of his own mother, dead now 5 years. She fussed over the men, made sure they ate enough, and clearly adored her daughter. Kate rode before she could walk properly, Margaret told Jack one evening, passing him a plate of biscuits. Robert would put her in the saddle in front of him and she would laugh and laugh, never showed a moment's fear. Mother, please. Kate's cheeks colored slightly. I am sure Jack does not want to hear baby stories. On the contrary, Jack said. Sounds like you were born to this. Kate met his eyes across the table. Something passed between them, quick as lightning, and Jack felt it settle in his bones. Tom had been right. He was in trouble. After dinner, Jack headed to the barn to check on his gelding. He found Kate there, working with Devil's Thunder. The stallion now accepted a halter, and she was leading him around the corral on a long line. The horse moved like black silk, powerful and graceful. He is magnificent, Jack said from the fence. Kate glanced over. He is going to be, still has a long way to go before I can put a saddle on him. Can I ask you something? How do you know when a horse can be saved and when it cannot? She was quiet for a moment, guiding the stallion through a turn. You feel it. Some horses, something inside them is broken beyond fixing. But most of the time, if you are patient, if you listen to what they are telling you, you can find a way through. It is about trust. They have to learn that you will not hurt them, that you are on their side. Once they believe that, everything changes. Jack climbed over the fence and walked closer, keeping his movements slow and obvious. Devil's Thunder eyed him but did not spook. And how long does that usually take? Depends on the horse. Depends on the person. Kate smiled, and it transformed her face, softening the serious lines. Devil here is stubborn and smart. That combination takes time. Sounds familiar. Jack grinned at her raised eyebrow. I mean the horse, of course. But she was still smiling. You settling in all right, better than all right. Your father runs a good outfit. The men respect him. They respect him because he treats them fairly. Pays on time, does not ask anyone to do work he would not do himself. Kate brought the stallion to a halt, running her hand along his neck. I want to run this place the same way when it is mine. A ranch is only as good as the people working it. Your father told me it will be yours someday. That is unusual, because I am a woman. It was not a question. Because most fathers would expect a son to inherit, or try to marry their daughter off to someone who would take over. Kate's expression hardened. My father knows I can run this ranch as well as any man, better than most. And I have no intention of marrying some fellow just so he can claim what I have worked for. If I marry, it will be because I want to, not because I need a man's name to legitimize my work. I was not criticizing, Jack said quickly, just the opposite. I think it is admirable, you and your father both. The hardness faded from her face. Sorry, I get defensive. You would not believe how many people have told my father he is making a mistake, that I should be married off, that a ranch is no place for a woman. Gets tiresome. I imagine it does. Jack moved closer to the stallion, who watched him with intelligent dark eyes. For what it is worth, I think those people are fools. Kate tilted her head, studying him. You are different from most cowboys I have met. Different how? You actually listen when people talk. Most men hear a woman's voice and their brains go quiet, waiting for her to finish so they can start talking again. Jack laughed, surprised. My mother used to say the exact same thing. She would get so frustrated with my father sometimes, said it was like talking to a fence post. But not you. I had 3 sisters. Learned early that women generally know what they are talking about, and I would be smarter to pay attention. Something in Kate's expression shifted, warmed. 3 sisters. Are they still in Texas? The question hit like a fist to the gut. Jack looked away, focusing on the stallion. No, they are gone. Whole family is gone. Fever swept through our town 6 years back. I was away on a cattle drive by the time I got home. He stopped, throat tight. Kate's hand touched his arm, gentle. I am sorry. That is a terrible burden to carry. I should have been there. You could not have known, and if you had been there, you might have gotten sick too. Maybe, or maybe I could have helped, done something. He shook his head, trying to dislodge the familiar guilt. Anyway, that is why I move around, nothing tying me down anymore. Everyone needs somewhere to belong, Kate said softly. Maybe you just have not found the right place yet. Their eyes met, and Jack felt that pull again, stronger this time. Kate's hand was still on his arm, warm through his shirt sleeve. The moment stretched between them, loaded with possibility. Devil's thunder snorted, breaking the spell. Kate stepped back, coiling the lead rope. I should get him settled for the night. Thank you for the company. Anytime. Jack climbed back over the fence, then paused. Kate. I am glad I ended up here. She smiled, that real smile that made her eyes light up. Me too, Jack, me too. October arrived with cooler weather and the constant work of preparing for winter. Jack fell into the rhythm of ranch life, rising before dawn to help Charlie with the day's assignments. He discovered he was good at reading cattle, anticipating when a steer would break from the herd or spotting signs of illness before they became serious. Charlie noticed and started asking his opinion more often, which earned Jack respect from the other hands. But it was the evenings he looked forward to most, when he would find his way to the corral where Kate worked with Devil's Thunder. The stallion's progress was remarkable. He now accepted a saddle and bridle, though Kate had not yet attempted to mount him. She worked patiently, getting him accustomed to wait on his back, teaching him to respond to subtle cues. You have a gift, Jack told her one evening, watching her adjust the stirrups. I have been around horses my whole life, but I have never seen anyone work the way you do. It is not a gift. It is practice and patience. But Kate looked pleased. My father started teaching me when I was 5, said if I was going to be around horses, I needed to understand them properly. Some people think you dominate a horse, break its spirit. But that just creates a resentful animal that will never give you its best. You have to earn their partnership. Is that how you see it? Partnership? Of course. I ask them to carry me to work with me. In return, I make sure they are well fed, safe, treated with kindness. Seems fair. She ran her hand along Devil's Thunder's shoulder. This boy, he is going to be special. I can feel it. Once he accepts a rider, once he understands what I am asking, he will be incredible. When will you try riding him? Soon. Maybe next week. I want to be sure he is ready. Kate glanced at Jack. You could help, actually. I will need someone to hold his head the first time I mount, just in case he panics. I would be honored, and he meant it. That she trusted him with this felt significant. A bridge crossed. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, the desert evening settling around them. A coyote called in the distance, and the horses in the other corrals shifted and stirred. Jack found himself noticing details about Kate he had missed before. The way she chewed her bottom lip when she was thinking, the small scar above her left eyebrow, the graceful strength in her hands. Can I ask you something? Kate said suddenly. Why did you really come to Copper Ridge? There are ranches all over the territory. What brought you here specifically? Jack considered lying, but something about Kate made him want to be honest. I was running. From memories, from guilt, from myself, I guess. I heard about Arizona, figured it was far enough from Texas that maybe I could start fresh. Copper Ridge was just the first town I came to that felt right. And does it feel right? He looked at her. More than I expected. Kate's cheeks colored slightly and she busied herself with the saddle straps. Well, we are glad to have you. You are a good worker and the men like you, even Charlie, and he does not warm up to people easily. Charlie is good people. You all are. Jack hesitated, then decided to take a risk. Kate, would you want to maybe go riding sometime? Not for work, I mean, just to ride. She looked up, surprise clear on her face. Like a picnic or something? Exactly like a picnic. Your mother made this incredible apple pie last night, and I am willing to bet she would pack us some if we asked nicely. Kate bit her lip, and Jack held his breath. Finally, she nodded. Sunday afternoon, there is a place up in the hills, a little canyon with a spring. It is beautiful this time of year. Sunday afternoon, Jack repeated, grinning like a fool. It is a date. It is a ride, Kate corrected, but she was smiling too. Sunday took forever to arrive. Jack found himself distracted, missing obvious things that made Miguel laugh and Charlie shake his head. But finally, the week's work was done, and Sunday afternoon found Jack waiting by the barn with his gelding saddled and a pack with food and blankets tied behind. Kate emerged from the house wearing a split riding skirt and a white blouse, her hair in a long braid. She looked beautiful, and Jack's mouth went dry. Ready, she asked, moving to where her paint mare waited. Absolutely. They rode north into the hills, following a trail that wound between red rock formations and stands of juniper. Kate pointed out landmarks, told him stories about the land. She knew every inch of this country, could read the desert the way she read horses. Jack listened, fascinated not just by what she said, but by the passion in her voice when she talked about this place. The canyon she led him to was a hidden jewel, walls rising in striated layers of rust and gold. A spring bubbled from between rocks, creating a small pool surrounded by green grass, an oasis in the harsh landscape. Cottonwood trees provided shade, their leaves turning golden with the season. "This is incredible," Jack said, swinging down from his saddle. "How did you find it?" "My father showed me when I was 10. He said every rancher needs a place to think, somewhere away from the demands of the work." Kate dismounted, letting her mare drink from the pool. "I come here when I need to clear my head." They spread a blanket under the cottonwoods and unpacked the food. Margaret had indeed provided pie along with fried chicken, biscuits, and a jar of lemonade. They ate and talked, conversation flowing easily. Jack found himself telling Kate things he had not spoken about in years. His childhood on the Texas ranch, his father's quiet strength, his mother's laughter. His sisters, their personalities and dreams cut short by illness. Kate listened without judgment, without offering empty platitudes. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment, then said, "They would be proud of you. For surviving, for keeping going. That takes its own kind of courage." "I ran away. You moved forward, there is a difference." Kate shifted closer, her shoulder nearly touching his. "Staying in a place that brings nothing but pain is not noble, Jack. It is just stubborn. You chose to find somewhere new, to build a different life. That is brave." Jack turned to her close enough to see the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. "You are remarkable, do you know that?" "I am practical," Kate said, but her voice had gone soft. "You are both." Jack reached up, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "Can I kiss you?" Kate's breath caught. For a heartbeat, Jack thought she would say no. Then she leaned in, closing the distance between them. Her lips were soft, tasting of apple pie and sunshine. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning. Then Kate's hand came up to cup the back of his neck, and everything intensified. Jack pulled her closer, feeling the rightness of her in his arms, like a piece clicking into place. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kate's eyes were wide. "Oh, yeah," Jack agreed, slightly dazed. "Oh, I have been kissed before," Kate said, "but never like that." "Me either." Jack rested his forehead against hers. "Kate Hayes, I think you are taming me just as surely as you tamed that stallion." She laughed, the sound bright with joy. "You are not wild, Jack Brennan, just hurt. There is a difference. Maybe you can heal me then. Maybe we can heal each other." They stayed in the canyon until the shadows grew long, talking and kissing and planning a future neither of them had dared imagine a month ago. When they finally rode back to the ranch, hands linked between their horses, Jack felt something he had not experienced in 6 long years. He felt hope. The next morning, Kate decided it was time to ride Devil's Thunder. Word spread quickly, and by mid-morning, everyone on the ranch had found reasons to be near the breaking corral. Robert stood at the fence, trying to look casual and failing. Margaret watched from the porch, worry clear on her face. Kate moved around the stallion with her usual confidence, but Jack, holding the horse's head as instructed, could see tension in her shoulders. This was the moment that mattered. Everything up until now had been preparation. This would prove whether her methods worked, whether Devil's Thunder truly trusted her. "Easy, boy," Kate murmured, running her hand along the stallion's neck. "We are going to do something new today. You are going to carry me. I know it feels strange, but I promise you are strong enough. I promise I will not hurt you." The horse's ears swiveled, tracking her voice. Jack kept a firm grip on the halter, ready to pull Kate clear if the stallion exploded. But Devil's Thunder stood still, muscles quivering but holding. Kate put her foot in the stirrup. The stallion shifted, and Jack felt tension coil through the animal. Kate paused, waiting. When the horse settled, she added weight to the stirrup, testing. Still the stallion held. Then, in one smooth motion, Kate swung into the saddle. Devil's Thunder's head came up. His whole body went rigid. Jack tightened his grip, waiting for the explosion, but Kate was already talking, her voice low and calm, hands gentle on the reins. The stallion took one tentative step, then another. His gait was stiff, uncertain, but he walked. "That is it," Kate encouraged. "You are doing so well." Such a good, strong boy. Jack moved with them, keeping pace but letting the horse have his head. They completed one circuit of the corral, then another. By the third, Devil's Thunder's stride had smoothed out, his head lowering slightly. He was not relaxed, not yet, but he was accepting. "I am going to let go," Jack said quietly. "You ready?" "Yes." Kate's voice was steady, but her knuckles were white on the reins. Jack released the halter and stepped back. The stallion felt the difference immediately, ears flicking back. But Kate squeezed with her legs, asking him to continue, and after a moment's hesitation, he did. They completed another circuit, then another. Kate asked for a trot, and the stallion complied, his powerful strides eating up the ground. The watching crowd erupted in cheers. Robert was grinning like a boy, and even Charlie looked impressed. Margaret had her hands pressed to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. But Jack only had eyes for Kate, sitting tall in the saddle, mastering the horse that no man had been able to ride. She was glorious. Powerful and graceful and absolutely fearless. And in that moment, watching her command that magnificent animal, Jack fell completely, irrevocably in love. Kate brought the stallion back to a walk, then halted him near the fence. She dismounted carefully, and Devil's Thunder turned his head to nuzzle her shoulder. "Good boy," she whispered, producing an apple from her pocket. "You are the best boy." Robert vaulted the fence and swept his daughter into a hug. "I knew you could do it, I never doubted." "He did all the work," Kate said, but she was beaming. "He just needed to understand what I was asking." The hands crowded around, offering congratulations. Even the normally taciturn Luther was smiling. Jack hung back, content to watch Kate bask in her well-earned triumph. But she looked over the crowd and found him, her eyes locking on his. The smile she gave him was different from the ones she gave the others, intimate and full of promise. That evening, after the celebration dinner Margaret insisted on preparing, Jack and Kate slipped away to the barn. Devil's Thunder dozed in his stall, exhausted from his momentous day. Kate leaned against Jack, his arm around her waist. "Thank you for being there today," she said. "I know you said it was an honor, but it meant a lot, having you there. I would not have missed it for anything." Jack kissed the top of her head. "You were incredible. Everyone is going to hear about this. You will have people lining up from all over the territory wanting you to train their horses." "That is the dream," Kate admitted. "To make the Double H known for producing the best horses in Arizona. To build something that lasts. You will do it, I have no doubt." Kate turned in his arms, looking up at him. "Jack, I need to tell you something. I am falling in love with you. I know we have not known each other long, and maybe that is foolish, but I do not seem to be able to help it. You are kind and patient, and you listen and you see me. Not just a girl who works with horses, but me, Kate, and that is a gift I did not know I was looking for." Jack's heart felt too big for his chest. "I love you too. Have since the moment I watched you stand in that corral with Devil's Thunder, refusing to back down. You are the strongest person I have ever met, Kate Hayes. And if you will have me, I want to stay. Not just for the work, but for you, to build that dream with you." "I will have you," Kate whispered, "for as long as you want to stay. Then you are stuck with me forever." He kissed her under the barn's dim lantern light, and it felt like a vow. Devil's Thunder snorted softly in his stall, and Jack could have sworn the horse approved. The weeks that followed were the happiest of Jack's life. He worked alongside Kate every day, helping her train Devil's Thunder and the other horses. The stallion proved everything Kate had believed he could be, powerful and intelligent and surprisingly gentle once he understood what was asked of him. Word did indeed spread, and soon people were traveling to the Double H specifically to see the black stallion and the woman who had tamed him. Jack and Kate stole time together whenever they could. Rides into the hills, quiet evenings in the barn, Sunday afternoons at the canyon spring. They talked about everything, dreams and fears and the future they wanted to build. Kate shared her vision for expanding the ranch's breeding program, for developing a reputation that would draw buyers from across the West. Jack found himself caught up in her enthusiasm, offering ideas, helping her work through problems. "You have a good head for this," Kate told him one evening as they reviewed breeding records by lamplight in the ranch office. "Have you thought about becoming a partner? In the business, I mean." Jack looked up, startled. "I am just a hired hand, Kate." "You are much more than that, and you know it. You understand horses almost as well as I do, and the financial side comes naturally to you. Plus, the men respect you. Charlie told my father last week that you are the best hand he has worked with in years." "That is generous, but this is your family's ranch, which is why I can offer partnership to whoever I want." Kate leaned across the desk, taking his hand. "I am not asking because you are courting me, Jack. I am asking because you are good at this and you care about it. Those are the qualities that matter." "Then yes," Jack said, overwhelmed. "Yes, I would be honored to be your partner," Kate grinned. "Good. Now help me figure out which mares we should breed to Devil's Thunder come spring. I am thinking Starlight and maybe Copper Bell, but I want your opinion." They worked late into the night, and Jack marveled at how natural it felt, planning a future with this remarkable woman. He had come to Copper Ridge looking to escape his past. Instead, he had found a reason to embrace the future. November brought cooler weather and preparations for the holidays. Margaret started planning the ranch's annual Thanksgiving dinner, which apparently was a major event that included the ranch hands and several families from town. Kate rolled her eyes at her mother's enthusiasm but threw herself into preparations anyway, proving she could manage a kitchen as skillfully as she managed a horse. Jack found himself welcomed into the Hayes family with an ease that sometimes brought tears to his eyes. Robert treated him like the son he had never had, teaching him the intricacies of ranch management and seeking his opinion on decisions. Margaret fussed over him, making sure he had everything he needed, slipping extra food onto his plate at meals. And Kate looked at him like he hung the moon. One evening in mid-November, Robert called Jack into his office. The older man poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed one to Jack, then settled into his chair with a serious expression. "Kate told me you two are courting, says you have talked about partnership in the ranch." "Yes, sir." "I hope that is all right with you." "More than all right. You are exactly the kind of man I hoped my daughter would find. Hardworking, honest, treats her as an equal." Robert sipped his whiskey. "But I need to ask you something, Jack. What are your intentions?" "Because Kate, she is tough and capable, but her heart is tender. If you are going to break it, better to do it now before things go further." "I would sooner cut off my own arm than hurt her," Jack said fiercely. "Sir, I love your daughter. I want to marry her, build a life with her, help her make the Double H everything she dreams it can be. I know I do not have much to offer financially, but I will work harder than anyone, and I will spend every day making sure she knows she is cherished." Robert's stern expression cracked into a smile. "That is exactly what I wanted to hear. You have my blessing, son. Now, have you asked her yet?" "No, I wanted to talk to you first. Smart man. Margaret would have my hide if you did not observe the proprieties." Robert finished his whiskey. "There is something I want to give you, been in my family for 3 generations. He opened a desk drawer and pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, gold with a small diamond that caught the lamplight. This was my grandmother's. She was a tough woman, crossed the plains in a wagon train, helped my grandfather build their ranch from nothing. Margaret wore it until I could afford something fancier, but she always said this ring meant more because of the woman who wore it first. I think Kate would feel the same." Jack took the box with shaking hands. "Sir, I cannot possibly accept this." "You can and you will. Kate is my only child, Jack. She gets this ranch and she should have this ring through you, but it will be hers." Robert stood, extending his hand. "Welcome to the family, son." They shook, and Jack had to blink hard against the sudden sting in his eyes. This was what he had lost 6 years ago: family, belonging. And now, miraculously, he had found it again. Thanksgiving dawned clear and cold, the desert sky a pale blue vault overhead. Jack woke early, nerves making sleep impossible. He had the ring in his pocket and a plan to propose after dinner, maybe during a walk before dessert. He had rehearsed what he wanted to say about 100 times, though he knew he would probably forget all of it the moment he looked into Kate's eyes. The ranch buzzed with activity all day. Margaret commanded the kitchen like a general, with Kate and several women from town helping. The men set up tables outside, taking advantage of the mild weather. By late afternoon, the spread was impressive. Roasted turkey and ham, mashed potatoes and gravy, half a dozen vegetables, fresh bread, and more pies than Jack could count. Families arrived, ranch hands mingled with townspeople, and the Double H rang with laughter and conversation. Jack found himself surrounded by people who felt like friends, even family. Tom from the livery was there, along with the town doctor and the schoolteacher and the family that ran the general store. They welcomed him, included him, made him feel part of the community. Kate caught his eye across the crowd and smiled, that special smile reserved just for him. She looked beautiful in a green dress that brought out the color of her eyes, her hair loose around her shoulders. Jack touched the ring box in his pocket, anticipation thrumming through him. Dinner was a loud, joyous affair. Robert gave a speech about gratitude and family and the importance of good neighbors. People ate and talked and laughed, and as the sun began to set, painting the desert in shades of gold and crimson, Jack felt a contentment he had forgotten existed. He was waiting for his moment, trying to catch Kate alone, when shouting erupted from the direction of the corrals. Everyone looked up as Danny came running, face panicked. "Mr. Hayes, the cattle in the south pasture, something has them spooked. They are stampeding toward the ravine." The jovial atmosphere shattered. Robert and the hands were moving instantly, running for the barn to saddle horses. Jack was right behind them, his mind already racing through the problem. The south pasture bordered a deep ravine. If the cattle went over, they would lose dozens of animals and probably half their herd value. "I will come with you," Kate said, appearing at Jack's elbow already pulling on her boots. "Kate, you should stay here," Robert began. "Those are my cattle too, Father, I am coming." Robert knew better than to argue. Within minutes they were mounted and racing toward the south pasture, a dozen riders strong. Jack pushed his gelding hard, Kate riding at his side. In the distance, he could hear the thunder of hooves and the bawling of panicked cattle. They crested a rise and saw the disaster unfolding. Nearly 100 head of cattle were running blind, heading straight for the ravine that cut across the landscape like a wound. Whatever had spooked them, fear had taken over and the animals were beyond reasoning. "We need to turn them." Charlie shouted. "Get ahead and turn them back." The riders split, some circling wide to get in front of the stampede, others harrying the edges to slow the panicked animals. Jack urged his gelding faster, Kate right beside him. They had to reach the ravine first, had to create a barrier the cattle would not cross. Jack's horse was fast, but Kate's paint mare was faster. She pulled ahead, leaning low over her horse's neck, riding like she was part of the animal. Jack's heart lurched into his throat, seeing her so close to danger, but he knew she would not hold back. This was her ranch, her herd, her responsibility. They reached the ravine with seconds to spare. Kate wheeled her mare around, placing herself directly in the path of the stampede. Jack pulled up beside her, and moments later Charlie and Miguel flanked them. They formed a living wall, horses and riders between the cattle and disaster. "Hold," Robert shouted, arriving with the others to press the wings of the herd. "Hold steady." The lead steer was nearly on top of them. Jack saw wild, white-trimmed eyes, heard the terrible drumming of hooves on hard ground. His gelding danced nervously but held position. Kate raised her arms, making herself bigger, and screamed at the cattle. The lead steer tried to turn, colliding with the animals behind. The whole front edge of the stampede bunched up, momentum fighting against confusion. For a terrifying moment, Jack thought they would be overrun. Then the cattle began to wheel, turning away from the ravine from the humans blocking their path. "Push them back," Robert commanded. "Keep them moving." It took another hour of hard riding to get the herd settled back in the pasture and to repair the fence section where they had broken through. A mountain lion had come down from the hills, Danny discovered, drawn by the smell of food from the Thanksgiving feast. It had spooked the cattle and then vanished back into the rocks. By the time they returned to the ranch house, dirty and exhausted, the party had dispersed. Margaret waited on the porch, relief flooding her face when she saw everyone return safely. "Thank God," she breathed. "I was so worried." "Is everyone all right?" "We are fine, Mother," Kate assured her, dismounting stiffly. "Just tired. Come inside, all of you. I saved dinner and there is hot water for washing." The hands took care of the horses while Jack and Kate cleaned up. They found each other afterward on the porch, both too wound up to sleep despite their exhaustion. "That was close," Jack said, taking Kate's hand. "If you had not gotten there first, if your horse had been a second slower—" "But she was not. We made it, everyone is safe, and the cattle are fine." Kate leaned against him. "This is the life, Jack. Ranching is not all sunsets and good horses. It is also danger and hard work and crisis that strikes when you are least prepared. You sure you want to sign on for this?" Jack pulled the ring box from his pocket. His hands shook slightly as he opened it, showing her the delicate gold band and diamond inside. "Kate Hayes, I have never been more sure of anything in my life. I love you. I love your strength and your courage and the way you face down stampedes and wild horses with the same steady determination. I love your dreams and your stubbornness and the way you see the world. I want to be your partner in every sense, to build this ranch with you, to face every crisis and celebration together. Will you marry me?" Kate's eyes filled with tears. She touched the ring with gentle fingers, then looked up at Jack with a smile that outshone the stars. "Yes, absolutely yes." Jack slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. He pulled her close and kissed her, tasting salt from her tears and his own. Behind them, the door creaked, and Jack heard Robert's satisfied chuckle and Margaret's delighted gasp. "About time," Robert said warmly. "Oh, let them be," Margaret scolded, but she was crying too. "Come inside, you two, we should celebrate properly." They went inside, to Margaret's excitement and Robert's congratulations, to leftover pie and plans for the future. And Jack, holding Kate's hand with the ring catching lamplight, felt the last piece of his broken heart finally heal. He had come to Copper Ridge running from death and loss. He had stayed for a woman who tamed wild horses and stampeding cattle with equal grace. And he had found, against all odds, a home. The wedding took place in late December, on a sunny afternoon when the desert wore its winter best. Kate refused a big affair, insisting on something simple at the ranch with just close friends and family. She wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit, and carried wildflowers that Jack had ridden out at dawn to collect. He wore his best suit, purchased for the occasion in Tucson, and thought his heart might burst when Kate walked across the yard to where he waited with the circuit preacher. She was beautiful, sunlight catching in her hair, eyes bright with joy and love. When she reached him and took his hand, Jack felt everything else fall away. There was just Kate, promising her life to his, binding their futures together with words and intention. "I love you," he whispered as the preacher pronounced them married. "I love you too," Kate whispered back. "Forever." They kissed as husband and wife, and the assembled crowd cheered. Margaret wept happily, Robert beamed with pride, and the ranch hands whistled and hollered their approval. Even Devil's Thunder, watching from his corral, tossed his head as if offering his own congratulations. The celebration lasted into the evening, with food and music and dancing under strings of lanterns Margaret had insisted on hanging. Jack danced with his bride, then with Margaret, and even with old Charlie, who proved surprisingly light on his feet. But his eyes always returned to Kate, his wife, his partner, his heart. As the party wound down and guests began departing, Jack and Kate slipped away to the small house Robert had insisted on building as their wedding gift. It sat on a rise overlooking the main ranch, close enough to be part of things but separate enough for privacy. Inside, it was simple but comfortable, with a bedroom and sitting room and a kitchen Kate had already started stocking. "So this is our home," Kate said, looking around with wonder. "Ours." "Ours," Jack agreed. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Are you happy?" "Happier than I ever imagined possible." Kate turned in his arms. "You know what I realized today? When I watched you tame Devil's Thunder, I saw your strength and patience. But what I did not see until now is that you tamed me too. I spent years building walls, telling myself I did not need anyone, that the ranch was enough. And then you showed up and knocked all those walls down without even trying. You saw me, really saw me, and you loved what you found. That is the greatest gift anyone has ever given me, Kate." Jack cupped her face in his hands. "You did not need taming. You needed someone who could match you, who would not try to diminish you or cage you. You needed a partner, not a master. And that is what I want to be for the rest of our lives. Your equal, your partner, your love." They came together then, husband and wife, sealing their vows in the privacy of their new home. And outside, the desert stretched under a blanket of stars, endless and beautiful and theirs. The winter passed in a blur of work and joy. Jack officially became a partner in the Double H, and together he and Kate made plans for expanding the horse breeding program. Devil's Thunder stood at stud, and they bred him to 6 carefully selected mares, anticipating foals that would command premium prices. Jack also implemented a new accounting system that helped them track expenses more accurately and identify areas where they could improve efficiency. But beyond the work, it was the small moments that Jack treasured most. Waking up with Kate in his arms, her hair tickling his nose. Working side by side in the corrals, their partnership so smooth they rarely needed words. Evening meals at the main house with Robert and Margaret, who had seamlessly folded Jack into their family. The way Kate would seek him out during the day, stealing a kiss when no one was looking, whispering that she loved him like it was a secret just between them. Spring arrived with wildflowers carpeting the desert and the promise of new life. Devil's Thunder's foals were born healthy and strong, each one displaying their father's intelligence and their mother's steady temperaments. Kate spent hours with the young horses, imprinting them early with gentle handling. Jack watched her with the foals, seeing the tender patience she showed, and found himself imagining her with children of their own. In May, Kate told him she was pregnant. They were in the barn, checking on a mare recovering from a difficult birth when Kate suddenly sat down hard on a hay bale. Jack rushed to her side, alarmed. "What is wrong? Are you hurt?" "No, I am fine. I am just—" Kate looked up at him, wonder and nervousness mixing on her face. "Jack, I am going to have a baby. We are going to have a baby." For a moment, Jack could not breathe. Then joy exploded through him, so intense it hurt. He pulled Kate into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. "Are you sure? When? How are you feeling?" "I am sure. The doctor confirmed it yesterday. He says late December, maybe early January." Kate pulled back to look at him. "I know we did not plan this so soon, but Jack, I am so happy. Are you happy?" Happy does not begin to cover it. Jack kissed her, gentle and reverent. "You are giving me everything I thought I lost. Family. A future. Love. Kate, you are my miracle." They told Robert and Margaret that evening, and Margaret cried while Robert pulled Jack aside for a serious talk about taking care of his daughter during the pregnancy. The ranch hands found out within days, as secrets were impossible to keep in close quarters, and they all offered congratulations and unsolicited advice. Even Devil's Thunder seemed to sense the change, becoming gentler around Kate, as if understanding she carried something precious. Kate insisted on continuing to work, though Jack and her father both tried to convince her to take things easier. She compromised, avoiding the more dangerous tasks but still spending hours training horses and helping manage the ranch. Her body changed through the summer and into the fall, her belly swelling with their child. and Jack thought she had never been more beautiful. They spent the evenings in their little house, Jack's hand on Kate's stomach feeling the baby kick and tumble. They argued good-naturedly about names, discussed how to balance ranching with parenthood, and marveled at the life they had built together. "I was so lonely before you came," Kate confessed one night, lying in bed with her head on Jack's chest. "I told myself I was fine, that I had the ranch and my parents and that was enough. But it was not. I needed you, even though I did not know it. You completed something in me, Jack." "We completed each other," Jack said, running his fingers through her hair. "You gave me a reason to live again, Kate, to hope, to believe that good things could still happen. You and this baby, you are my second chance, and I promise I will not waste it." December arrived with unseasonable cold and talk of snow in the high country. Kate was huge now, uncomfortable and tired, but still stubborn about helping where she could. Margaret had moved into their house the week before, insisting she needed to be close when the baby came. Jack was grateful, as the thought of Kate going into labor terrified him more than any stampede or wild horse ever had. 2 days after Christmas, Kate woke him in the early morning hours, her face tight with pain. "It is time," she said. "Jack, the baby is coming." Panic flooded through him, but he forced himself to stay calm. Margaret was already up, had been sleeping lightly in the next room, and she took charge immediately. Jack rode to town for the doctor while Margaret got Kate settled. The ride seemed to take forever, though it could not have been more than 40 minutes before Jack was racing back with Doc Patterson bouncing uncomfortably in the saddle behind him. The labor lasted through the day and into the evening. Jack paced the sitting room, listening to Kate's labored breathing and occasional cries through the bedroom door. Robert arrived and paced with him, both men useless in the face of this female mystery. "She is strong," Robert said, gripping Jack's shoulder. "She will be fine, they will both be fine." Jack nodded, trying to believe it. But he remembered his mother's friend who had died in childbirth when he was a boy, remembered the terrible grief that had descended on their community. The thought of losing Kate was unbearable. He prayed, something he had not done in years, bargaining with God to keep his wife safe. As the sun set, painting the sky in crimson and gold, a new sound filled the house. A baby's cry, thin and outraged. Jack's head snapped up. Margaret appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face but smiling. "You have a son," she said. "A healthy baby boy, and Kate is tired but fine." Jack did not remember crossing the room, but suddenly he was at Kate's side. She looked exhausted, hair plastered to her forehead with sweat, but she had never looked more beautiful. In her arms, wrapped in a blanket Margaret had made, was a tiny red-faced infant. "Jack," Kate said softly, "meet your son." Jack reached out with shaking hands and took the baby, cradling the small, warm weight against his chest. The infant's eyes were closed, his little mouth working. He had dark hair, wispy and soft, and impossibly tiny fingers that curled around Jack's thumb when he offered it. "He is perfect," Jack breathed. "Kate, he is absolutely perfect." "I was thinking we could name him Thomas," Kate said. "After your father, Thomas Robert Brennan, if that is all right with you." Jack looked at her through tear-blurred eyes. That she would honor his lost family this way, that she understood how much it would mean, overwhelmed him. "It is more than all right, it is perfect, thank you." He bent carefully, kissing Kate's forehead, then looked back at his son. Thomas, his boy, his family. The future he had thought dead and buried had been reborn in this tiny, perfect person. And Kate, his incredible wife, had given him this gift. Robert and Margaret came in to meet their grandson, and the room filled with quiet joy and wonder. Doc Patterson checked both Kate and the baby, pronounced them healthy, and left with instructions for the coming days. Jack climbed carefully into bed next to Kate, still holding Thomas, and the three of them lay together as the night deepened outside. "We did it," Kate whispered, her hand resting on Jack's arm. "We made a family." "You did it," Jack corrected. "You are the strongest person I have ever known. Thank you for this, for him, for everything." We have just started, Kate said, smiling despite her obvious exhaustion. This is just the beginning of our story, Jack. We have years ahead of us. Decades. We are going to raise this boy and maybe more children and build the best horse ranch in the territory and grow old together. You and me, partner. You and me, Jack agreed. Forever. Thomas stirred in his arms, making small, snuffling noises. Jack looked down at his son, then at his wife, then out the window at the ranch they were building together. This was home. This was family. This was the life he had never dared dream he might have again, and it was only the beginning. The years that followed were full and rich, marked by both triumphs and challenges, but always anchored by love. Thomas grew from infant to toddler to a sturdy boy who followed his mother around the corrals, already fascinated by horses. Kate proved as adept at motherhood as she was at everything else, balancing the demands of the ranch with raising their son. Jack watched her teach Thomas to be gentle with animals, to respect the land, to work hard and love deeply. 2 years after Thomas was born, Kate gave birth to twin girls, Emma and Sarah. The ranch house erupted into chaos, but it was joyful chaos. Margaret moved in permanently to help with the children, and Robert doted on his grandchildren with shameless favoritism. The ranch hands competed to make the babies smile, and even crusty old Charlie could be found making silly faces at the girls when he thought no one was watching. The double HTK's reputation grew steadily. Devil's Thunder's offspring proved everything Kate had predicted, commanding top prices and bringing buyers from as far away as California and Colorado. Kate and Jack expanded the breeding program, always selecting for intelligence and temperament along with physical ability. They developed a training method that other ranchers began asking about, and Kate started holding workshops, teaching her gentle approach to breaking horses. Jack proved to have a talent for the business side of ranching. He negotiated contracts with cavalry posts and stage lines, secured deals for breeding rights, and managed their finances with careful attention. Together, he and Kate made an unbeatable team, each complementing the other's strengths. But beyond the professional success, it was the quiet moments that defined their life together. Family dinners around the big table in the main house now expanded to accommodate the growing brood. Thomas's first solo ride on a gentle mare, with Kate coaching him and Jack's heart in his throat. The twins learning to walk, staggering between their parents with determined expressions that reminded Jack so much of Kate he had to laugh. Sunday afternoons at their special canyon, now a family tradition, with picnics and swimming in the spring-fed pool. Robert's health began to fail when Jack and Kate had been married 8 years. It started slowly, with fatigue and shortness of breath, but gradually worsened. The doctor said it was his heart, wearing out after 70 years of hard use. Robert faced his decline with characteristic grace, using the time to ensure Kate and Jack had everything they needed to run the ranch without him. "I am so proud of you," Robert told Kate one evening, sitting on the porch watching the children play. "You have become everything I knew you could be. Better even. This ranch will be in good hands with you and Jack." "Do not talk like that," Kate said, though tears gleamed in her eyes. "You are going to be around for years yet. Maybe, maybe not, but either way I am at peace. You are happy, successful, raising fine children." What more could a father ask? Robert turned to Jack, who sat on Kate's other side. "Take care of her, son, and let her take care of you. That is what partnership means." "I will, sir. I promise." Robert passed away that fall in his sleep with Margaret and Kate at his bedside. The funeral drew people from all over the territory, testament to the respect he had earned over a lifetime of honest dealing and fair treatment. Kate grieved deeply but carried on, knowing her father would have expected nothing less. Jack supported her through the dark days, and together they navigated the transition of full ownership. Margaret continued living with them, taking joy in her grandchildren and helping where she could. She taught Emma and Sarah to cook, and so while also making sure they could ride and rope as well as any boy. "Women need all the skills they can get," she told them firmly. Never know when they might need them. Thomas, at 10 years old, was already showing signs of becoming an exceptional horseman. He had Kate's gift for reading animals and Jack's patience. Jack taught him about finances and business, while Kate taught him about breeding and training. The boy soaked it up like a sponge, asking endless questions and always wanting to help. One evening, watching Thomas work with one of Devil's Thunder's grandsons, Kate took Jack's hand. "Can you believe this is our life?" she asked. "Sometimes I have to pinch myself." "I know what you mean. There are still mornings I wake up and cannot quite believe you are real, that all of this is real." Jack pulled her close. "You know what I think about sometimes? That day I watched you tame Devil's Thunder, I knew then that you could tame me too. That you could take all my broken pieces and make me whole again. You were never broken, Jack, just hurt. And maybe I helped you heal, but you healed me too. Before you, I was so focused on proving I could run this ranch that I forgot about everything else. You reminded me that there is more to life than work, that love and family matter just as much as success." "We are quite a pair," Jack said, smiling. "The best pair," Kate agreed. She leaned her head on his shoulder, watching their son with the horse. "The very best." Thomas eventually came over, leading the young horse. At 15, he was already as tall as Jack, with his mother's eyes and his father's steady temperament. "He is coming along well," Thomas reported. "Another week or two and he will be ready for his first rider." "Good work," Kate said. "You have real talent, Thomas. I am proud of you." The boy flushed with pleasure. "I learned from the best." The twins, now 13, came running from the house where they had been helping their grandmother prepare dinner. Emma and Sarah were inseparable, finishing each other's sentences and getting into mischief together. They were bright and bold, already showing signs of their mother's determination. "Grandmother says dinner is ready," Emma announced, "and she made apple pie." "Then we better hurry," Jack said. "You know how fast that pie disappears." They walked back to the house as a family, the Arizona sunset painting the world in gold and crimson. Jack looked at Kate, at their children, at the ranch they had built together, and felt gratitude so profound it almost hurt. This was everything. This was enough. This was more than he had ever dreamed possible. In the spring of Thomas's 18th year, a young woman arrived at the ranch with her father, looking to purchase breeding stock. Her name was Rachel. She was intelligent and kind, and Thomas was instantly smitten. Jack and Kate watched their son fall in love with a mixture of amusement and poignancy. "That was us once," Kate said, watching Thomas help Rachel select a mare. "Young and certain the world was full of possibilities." "Was?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "Pretty sure the world is still full of possibilities, and we are not that old. Speak for yourself. I found a gray hair yesterday." "One gray hair? Good Lord, we should plan your funeral immediately." Jack dodged the playful swat Kate aimed at him, laughing. "You are beautiful, Kate Brennan." Gray hairs and all. By year's end, Thomas and Rachel were engaged, planning a summer wedding at the ranch. The twins were courting as well, Emma with a schoolteacher from town and Sarah with Miguel's son, who worked as a hand on a neighboring ranch. The house buzzed with wedding plans and the excited chatter of young love. Margaret, now quite elderly but still sharp as a tack, watched the proceedings with satisfaction. "The circle continues," she told Kate. "New families forming, new generations to carry on, that is how it should be." Thomas and Rachel's wedding was a grand affair, with guests traveling from across the territory. Jack stood beside his son, feeling the weight of years and the joy of watching the boy become a man. Thomas's vows to Rachel echoed the ones Jack had spoken to Kate so many years ago, promises of partnership and love and loyalty. "You raised a good man," Rachel's father told Jack after the ceremony. "I am glad my daughter found him." "We raised him together," Jack said, nodding toward Kate, who was dancing with the groom. "I cannot take credit for what she contributed, but he felt proud nonetheless. Proud of Thomas, of the life he and Kate had built, of the legacy they were creating. This ranch, this family, would continue long after they were gone. And that, Jack thought, was about as close to immortality as a person could get. The years continued their steady march. Thomas and Rachel built a house on the Double H property and began managing much of the day-to-day operations. Emma married her schoolteacher and moved to town but visited frequently. Sarah and Miguel's son, Carlos, married and stayed on the ranch, working the cattle operation. Grandchildren began arriving, filling the ranch with noise and laughter and life. Kate slowed down in her 60s, her body finally protesting the hard physical work of a lifetime, but her mind remained sharp and her eye for horses unerring. She spent her days teaching the grandchildren about animals, passing on the knowledge she had spent decades accumulating. Jack, too, eased back from the heaviest work, though he still kept the books and advised Thomas on business decisions. They spent more time together, just the two of them, taking slow rides into the hills or sitting on the porch watching sunsets. The canyon where Jack had first kissed Kate remained their special place, and they visited it often, remembering the young people they had been and marveling at the life they had created. "Do you have any regrets?" Kate asked him one evening, sitting by the spring with their boots off and feet in the cool water. They were in their late 60s now, hair more silver than dark, faces lined by sun and time but eyes still bright. "Not a single one," Jack said honestly. "Well, maybe I regret not meeting you sooner. Think of all the extra years we could have had. We had exactly the time we were meant to have. You needed to go through what you did to become the man I fell in love with, and I needed to be stubborn and independent so I could appreciate a true partner when he showed up." Kate took his hand, their fingers interlacing with the ease of decades of practice. "Every choice, every hardship, every joy led us here. I would not change a thing. Not even the time Devil's thunder almost trampled you during that thunderstorm, not even that. Though I could have done without the month you spent hovering over me like I was made of glass afterward." Kate laughed at the memory. "You were insufferable." "I was terrified," Jack corrected. "The thought of losing you has always been my greatest fear." "You are stuck with me, Jack Brennan. I fully intend to make it to 100 and take you with me. That is a plan I can get behind." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the evening sounds of the desert. An owl called from the rocks, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote sang. The same sounds that had surrounded them 40 years ago, when Jack was a grief-haunted cowboy, and Kate was the remarkable woman who had tamed a stallion no man could ride. "You know what I realized," Kate said softly. "When I was working with Devil's Thunder all those years ago, I thought I was just training a horse, but I was really showing you who I was. And you, watching me, you saw past the surface to the person underneath. You saw someone worth loving." "I saw someone extraordinary," Jack said. "Someone strong and brave and determined, but also someone lonely, whether she knew it or not. Someone who needed a partner, not a follower or a master, but an equal, and I wanted to be that person for you. You have been. Every single day you have been my equal, my partner, my love." Kate leaned against him. "We tamed each other, Jack. We gentled the wild parts and strengthened the rest. That is what real love does. It makes you more yourself, not less. Then I guess that Stallion did us both a favor, being so impossible that no man could ride him. If you had not been in that corral that day, I might have just passed through town and never found you." "Fate," Kate said firmly. "It was always going to be us. Devil's Thunder just showed us the way." They stayed at the canyon until full dark, then rode slowly back to the ranch. The lights of home glowed warm in the distance, and Jack could see figures moving on the porch. Thomas and Rachel, probably enjoying the evening. Maybe some of the grandchildren, his family, his legacy, his future made manifest. Margaret passed away peacefully in her sleep when she was 92, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The funeral was massive, with people traveling from all over to pay respects to a woman who had been the heart of the Double H for so many decades. Kate grieved but also celebrated, knowing her mother had lived a full, rich life and had died knowing her family was secure and thriving. Jack and Kate moved into their 70s with grace, accepting the limitations age brought while still finding joy in each day. They could no longer ride far or work long hours, but they could still teach, still advise, still love. The ranch continued to prosper under Thomas's management, the horse breeding program they had started now famous throughout the West. One spring morning, Jack woke to find Kate standing at the window looking out at the sunrise. She was 75 now, her body frail but her spirit as strong as ever. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "Everything. All the years, all the moments, the children and grandchildren. This ranch still standing, still thriving." Kate turned in his arms. "We did good, Jack. We built something that will last long after we are gone." "We did very good," Jack agreed, "and we are not done yet." "I figure we have another good 20 years in us," Kate laughed. "Your optimism is one of the things I love most about you, always has been. Among my many charms." Jack kissed her forehead. "Come on, I smell coffee. Thomas must be up." They walked slowly to the main house, where 3 generations of family were already gathering for breakfast. Thomas and Rachel, now in their 50s with children and grandchildren of their own. The twins, both with gray in their hair and laugh lines around their eyes. The grandchildren, some with children of their own now. The house overflowed with love and laughter and life. Jack sat at the head of the table with Kate beside him, looking around at the faces of their family. Every person here carried part of them forward. Their values, their love of the land, their commitment to treating people and animals with respect. This was their true legacy, not the ranch or the money or the reputation, but the family they had created and the values they had instilled. After breakfast, Jack and Kate walked slowly to the corrals. A young great-grandson was working with a spirited colt, using the gentle methods Kate had pioneered so many decades ago. The boy's patience and calm reminded Jack painfully of Kate at that age, seeing potential where others saw problems. "He has the gift," Kate said, watching, "just like his great-grandmother." "And his great-grandfather," Jack added. "You taught all of us, this whole family we learned from you, from us," Kate corrected. "I could not have done any of this without you, Jack." The ranch, the children, all of it required both of us. "Partnership, remember? Partnership," Jack agreed. "Always." The colt settled under the boy's steady handling and Kate smiled with satisfaction. "That is how it is done, patience and trust every time." They spent the morning at the corrals, then the afternoon on the porch, greeting visitors and family members who stopped by. The day passed in the easy rhythm of ranch life, sun arcing across the sky, shadows lengthening, evening coming soft and gold. As the sun set, painting the desert in familiar shades of crimson and amber, Jack held Kate's hand and watched their family gather for dinner. Thomas was telling a story that had the children laughing. Rachel was helping in the kitchen. The great-grandchildren were playing in the yard. Everything was exactly as it should be. "We made it," Kate said softly, "all the way to the end together." "This is not the end," Jack said. "Just another beginning. Our story continues through them, through every child and grandchild and great-grandchild. Through this ranch and the land and the horses, we are going to live on, Kate, forever." "I like that thought." Kate squeezed his hand. "Forever with you sounds just right. Forever with you is everything I ever wanted." They sat together as the stars began to appear one by one in the darkening sky. The desert night enfolded them, familiar and peaceful. Jack thought about the terrified, grief-haunted man he had been when he first rode into Copper Ridge. He thought about the lonely, defensive woman Kate had been, hiding her heart behind work and determination. And he thought about how they had found each other, healed each other, built a life together that exceeded anything either had dared dream. Years later, when Jack was 83 and Kate was 80, they celebrated their 55th wedding anniversary with a party that drew people from across the territory. The governor sent congratulations, as did cavalry generals and ranchers and businessmen whose horses had come from the Double H breeding program. But the real celebration was with family. 4 generations gathered to honor the couple who had started it all. Thomas gave a speech, his voice rough with emotion. "My parents taught me that anything worth doing is worth doing right, that you treat everyone with respect, from the wealthiest buyer to the newest ranch hand, that animals deserve kindness and patience. That love is not just a feeling but a choice you make every day. They showed me what partnership looks like, what commitment means, and they gave us all this beautiful legacy." To Jack and Kate Brennan, the best parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents anyone could ask for. The assembled crowd raised their glasses, and Jack felt Kate's hand tighten on his. They had done it. They had built something lasting and beautiful and real. And as he looked around at the faces of his family, Jack knew that the frightened young man who had watched a woman tame a stallion all those years ago could never have imagined this abundance of blessings. One quiet morning in late fall, when Jack was 85 and Kate 82, they took a final ride to their canyon. It required help getting into the saddle, and they rode slower than ever before, but they made it. The canyon was exactly as it had always been, timeless and beautiful, the spring still bubbling clear and cold from the rocks. They sat by the water, holding hands, remembering. First kisses and proposals, laughter and tears, triumphs and struggles, births and deaths. 57 years of marriage, of partnership, of love that had weathered every storm and grown stronger with each passing year. "No regrets?" Jack asked, echoing their conversation from years before. "Not a single one," Kate said, her voice soft but certain. "You gave me everything, Jack Brennan. Love, family, partnership, joy. You saw me when others only saw a stubborn girl with horses. You loved me for who I was, not who you wanted me to be. That is the greatest gift anyone ever gave me." "You gave me life," Jack said simply. "When I came to Copper Ridge, I was barely existing. Going through the motions, you reminded me what it meant to really live, to hope, to dream, to love. You saved me, Kate. We saved each other." Kate leaned her head on his shoulder. "That is what love does. It makes both people better, stronger, more complete." They stayed at the canyon until the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson and purple. Then, helping each other, they rode slowly home. The ranch spread before them in the dying light, buildings and corrals and pastures full of cattle and horses. Lights glowed in windows, smoke curled from chimneys. Home, Jack and Kate lived 5 more years, long enough to see a 5th generation born. They spent those years mostly on the porch, watching the ranch continue without their active participation, but knowing their influence remained in every decision, every tradition, every value the family held dear. They told stories to the great-great-grandchildren, passed on wisdom, and reminded everyone that a life well lived was measured not in money or acreage, but in love given and received. On a cool spring morning, with wildflowers blooming across the desert and new foals frolicking in the corrals, Kate passed away peacefully in her sleep. Jack held her hand as she went, whispering that he loved her, that he would be along shortly, that she should wait for him. He followed her 3 months later, his heart simply stopping in the middle of the night. He died with a smile on his face, his last thoughts of Kate waiting for him somewhere beyond, ready to start their next adventure together. The funeral was massive, with people traveling from all over the country to pay respects to the couple who had built the Double H into a legendary operation. Governors and business tycoons, ranch hands and neighbors, family from 4 generations, they all came to say goodbye and to celebrate lives exceptionally well lived. Thomas, now 70, stood at his parents' grave, holding his own grandchildren's hands. "They taught us that love is the foundation of everything," he said, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "That treating others with respect and kindness matters more than profit. That the land and animals we steward are sacred trusts. That family is everything." Those lessons will live on through every generation that follows. Jack and Kate Brennan built more than a ranch. They built a legacy of love, and that is truly forever. The Double H continued to prosper for generations, each successive owner honoring the principles Jack and Kate had established. Their gentle methods for training horses spread throughout the West, changing the industry. Their commitment to fair treatment of employees became legendary. And their love story, the cowboy who watched a woman tame the stallion no man could ride and knew she could tame him too, became the stuff of legend, passed down through the family and told to wide-eyed children who dreamed of finding that kind of love themselves. In the ranch house, a photograph held pride of place above the fireplace. Jack and Kate on their 50th anniversary, standing in front of a now elderly Devil's Thunder. All three were silver-haired and lined with age, but the love in Jack and Kate's eyes as they looked at each other was as bright and fierce as it had been 57 years before when they first met in a dusty corral in Copper Ridge, Arizona Territory. Below the photograph, a plaque read, "True love is partnership. True partnership is seeing someone holy and loving what you see." Jack and Kate Brennan knew this truth and lived it every day. May we all be so blessed. And in the hills beyond the ranch, a canyon with a spring-fed pool remained a special place, visited by generations of the family who came to remember the couple who had loved there first. The land remembered them. The ranch remembered them. And every horse bred on the Double H carried forward the legacy of patience and gentleness that Kate had pioneered, and Jack had helped her perfect. They had watched each other, understood each other, healed each other, and loved each other with a devotion that changed not just their own lives but the lives of everyone who came after. And that, in the end, was the greatest legacy of all. Not the land or the money or the reputation, but the love that had started with a wild stallion and a patient woman and a cowboy brave enough to recognize that being tamed by the right person was not weakness, but the truest strength of all. The story of Jack and Kate Brennan became legend in Arizona, told around campfires and in ranch houses, a testament to what two people could build when they chose partnership and love over everything else. And though decades passed and the world changed around the Double H, the core truths they had lived by remained constant. Treat others with respect, care for the land and animals entrusted to you, value family above all, and when you find someone who sees your true self and loves what they see, hold on to them with everything you have. That was the legacy of the cowboy who watched a woman tame the stallion no man could ride and knew she could tame him too. A legacy not of dominance or breaking, but of healing and partnership and love that lasted beyond death into eternity. And every foal born on the Double H, every couple who married under the cottonwood trees, every child taught to be gentle with horses and kind to people, carried that legacy forward into the future, ensuring that Jack and Kate Brennan's love would never truly die but would live on forever in the land and the family they had created together.